Hey everybody, it's John from Seattle Coffee Gear. We're in the commercial kitchen today, not doing a review necessarily, but we're going to talk about grinder maintenance and how to clean your grinders. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on Eureka grinders. This also works for some Nuova Simonelli grinders because they share some design details. Before we jump into that, one thing I do want to mention is if you're getting a brand new grinder, oftentimes they'll be set pretty coarse. So what I'm going to show you real quick here is actually something you might want to do right when you purchase a grinder if you're trying to set it up for espresso. So this grinder is on, it's plugged into power. This is set, looks like there's a little bit of coffee still left in there. And I'm going to coarsen this up quite a bit. One note that we get a lot of times, or a confusion that we get a lot of times with these grinders, is thinking that you can only adjust these from like 0 out to 9. But that's not the case. This is more just a guide. You can turn this as much as you want. You can even go all the way fine until the burrs touch. And then at that point, you're basically just putting more pressure on those burrs touching. So this is not like a hard stop to hard stop. It is truly infinite in a good and not so good way. So if you get a brand new grinder and you want to have it set up for espresso a little bit more easily without wasting a ton of coffee, an easy way to do that is you just run the grinder and then turn this knob until you hear, we're almost there, until you hear that. So that is actually the burrs touching, and that way you don't have to waste all this coffee, you don't have to grind through on a super coarse setting and risk clogging your grinder. It's just much easier if you do that and stop as soon as you hear those burrs touching and back it off, and then come out to about there, and that should be pretty close. And then you can open up your hopper, and I don't know why I turned that off. And then you can get it grinding. And if you look here, that's probably a little bit fine, but without wasting a ton of coffee, I'm pretty close in that range. I didn't clog my grinder. You're not going to do any damage to your burrs if you are just touching them quickly and backing off right away. And so that is a quick tip on setting up your grinder right out of the box. Now we're going to actually talk about cleaning your grinder. So first thing you obviously want to do is close that gate and then purge out any coffee. One feature that I do like about these Eureka grinders is the press and hold button for continuous run, or just that, quick press, and that'll just have it run for a set amount of time. Cool. So that looks good to me there. I'm going to make sure my gate is off there. Before I do that, I'm going to turn this off, and I'm also going to unplug the grinder. So I'll be right back. We are back. I unplugged it, so I have my cord here. Just don't want to risk this turning on while I'm working on it or cleaning in it. So the first thing after you do that is to take out this set screw on the side of the hopper here. This is what's holding the hopper in place, keeping it from toppling over. Once you get it to a certain point, it's probably easier to just remove it all the way. If you're doing a thorough grinder cleaning like I am, you will need to remove that all the way to be safe. And then this sits pretty darn snug. Just going to take that out and make sure I don't do anything there. This is what I like to do, because it's easier to do that instead of trying to balance it on the top of that. If this is the end of the night in a coffee shop, you're probably going to be dumping this into another storage container. Next, you are taking off this plastic collar. And then this is where you come in and remove these 3 screws. I'll tip this so you guys can see that. And then if you look here, 3 screws. This is the assembly that holds the upper burr, and this is a little auger here that pulls things down into the burrs. So I'm going to unscrew all of these. As you can tell if you look at these screws, we've taken apart this grinder and put it back together more than a couple times. And these are all Phillips screws. I'm just going to remove them and set them on the counter. The last one. And once I get that, then this whole thing just lifts right out. And this is a good opportunity to take a little brush and come in here and brush out any coffee. Oftentimes what's really helpful is if you have some sort of vacuum to be able to make cleanup a little bit easier. Just make sure that your vacuum is only for food, because you don't want the same thing you're using on your carpets and floors in your grinder, because that's kind of gross, especially if you're drinking your coffee like most of us are. Now, if we look in here, we can see the actual burr assembly. Well, the bottom burr assembly there, and we've been cleaning this grinder pretty religiously, and I have cleaned it recently, so this is actually a lot better than yours might look at home or in your coffee shop. This is a pretty thorough cleaning, so this is not something you may need to do every single night in a coffee shop, but this might be something you do every week just to minimize buildup, minimize clogging. And then once you have all that broken free, you can take a vacuum and go in here and vacuum all that out. We're going to break while I vacuum that out, and we'll come back with a clean grinder. I just finished vacuuming this all out. I got this pretty well cleaned down too, so this is set to go. One thing you do want to pay attention to while you're cleaning is if you look right here, that is actually the start of the chute that comes out down here. So if you do have a clog in your grinder, that's probably going to be the main culprit there. Clogs happen when you adjust too fast, or if you grind too coarse, if you grind for too long, but typically it's when an adjustment on that is made too fast. There's also what's called a clump crusher in there that gives you kind of that fluffy grind. Sometimes that can get pushed around. Again, if you're adjusting too fast, that will get pushed around. So one more look at that there. And then we'll get this all put back together. All right. So now that's all clean. My chute is clear, my clump crusher is clear, so I'm going to get all these screws back in place. We'll get this put back together. You were hoping it would spill. This is now all back together. It is fully cleaned out and ready to grind some more coffee. Because I already had adjusted this down to that espresso range and I didn't really adjust that bottom burr at all, this is still in a pretty close range for espresso. I might have to do some minor tweaking, but because of the design of Eureka where the bottom burr adjusts and the top burr comes out, I don't have to worry about redialing that in seriously. Overall, I hope this has been a good video for you guys. You learned a little bit about setting up a grinder fresh out of the box. Maybe you learned a little bit about cleaning a grinder and doing some maintenance on your grinder. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or thoughts on the video, leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys again for watching and have a great day.